Welcome to my world, where every story unfolds.
Welcome back to the deep dive. So, this week we're looking at something quite disturbing. We've got sources describing, well, not just one crisis, but a whole series of them.
Yeah, a cluster of really catastrophic events, all crammed into, mid-October? Just a single week.
Exactly, just 1 week. And, on the surface, you see these terrible industrial accidents,
Yeah.
right? Big fires, a ship sinking.
Tragic, yeah. Accidents happen.
They do. But when you start mapping out the targets, especially the economic targets, a really unsettling pattern starts to emerge, a common thread.
And that pattern is really the key here. The sources we looked at, they move past the immediate, human tragedy to track the financial chain reaction. It seems like every single one of these incidents was, calculated.
Calculated, how so?
Not just to damage property, but specifically aimed at the National Economic Reserve. The cumulative impact suggests a goal of creating financial instability, maybe driving up unemployment, fostering unrest down the line.
Okay, let's unpack this then, because our mission today is really to connect these dots. Factories burn, ships sink, as you said. Why are these incidents happening so close together, being seen as potentially a coordinated strike against the country's finances?
It comes down to the mechanism. Strategic targeting of essentially export capacity.
Right.
When a country like this relies heavily on foreign currency reserves, the quickest way to hit those reserves is kind of twofold. First, you destroy the raw materials they already paid for using those reserves.
Okay, money's already gone out.
Exactly. And second, you cripple their ability to earn new foreign currency through future exports.
Ah, so it's a calculated double loss.
Mm-hmm.
Got it. Let's walk through the timeline. It kicks off October 15th.
That's the first major one we see in this cluster. A terrible fire in Mirpur, a garment factory, and also a chemical warehouse right next to it. Tragically, 16 workers died.
Just awful. And garments, that's the country's largest export sector, right?
Yeah.
So why is this more than just a horrible industrial accident in this context?
Well, beyond the direct loss, it creates immediate panic in the market. Garment exports are absolutely vital.
The lifeblood.
Totally. So when a big facility burns, foreign buyers get nervous. They need reliability. It also messes up safety certifications for other factories, which they need for international trade.
Right. Delays, hurdles.
Exactly. Fewer certified factories means fewer exports going out. It directly throttles that pipeline and cuts into foreign currency earnings. A direct hit.
Okay. Then just 2 days later, October 17th, the focus seems to shift. A fire. This time at the Chittagong Export Processing Zone, the EPZ.
Yes, the EPZ. Now, the safety of an EPZ is, it's critical for foreign investment, for trade. These zones are meant to be beacons of security, reliability.
Like a safe harbor for commerce.
Precisely. So a fire there, it's like a huge flashing red light to global investors. It screams, this place might not be safe for your business.
Undermines confidence.
Absolutely. Plus, think about any goods already in the EPZ, warehoused, ready to ship out and bring in currency. Goof. Destroyed. It's a calculated hit on that investor confidence and existing goods.
And the hits keep coming. October 19th now. This time it's the pharmaceutical sector. A major fire at Incepta Pharmaceuticals in Damrai.
And Incepta isn't small potatoes. They're a top manufacturer exporting, I think, to over 100 countries. High-value stuff.
So this isn't just about textiles anymore.
No, this targets a really high-margin export sector. The sources suggest a lot of the stock and equipment lost there was tied directly to big international contracts. It sends a message. It's not just your main industry. Even your sophisticated, diversified exports aren't safe.
It paints a picture of systemic vulnerability. And just to sort of tie a bow on this logistical disruption picture, around the same time as the airport fire we're about to discuss, there was another incident.
Yeah, almost lost in the noise, but significant in this pattern. A large ship carrying materials bound for export sank in the Bay of Bengal, near Chittagong port.
So another loss of goods meant for foreign markets, further hitting that export capability.
Exactly. It just reinforces this pattern of disrupting commerce, hitting exports from multiple angles, production, secure zones, high-value goods, and now logistics.
Which brings us then to what seems like the centerpiece, certainly the most financially devastating event in this cluster, the fire at Dhaka's main airport, Hazrat Shahjalal International, in the cargo park, October 18th.
Yes. The scale of the loss here is just staggering. Sources are estimating 10 to 15,000 crore taka worth of goods destroyed.
10 to 15,000 crore, just to clarify for everyone, 1 crore is 10 million. So we're talking potentially well over $1 billion US worth of goods.
Easily. It's a massive, massive figure.
And what makes that loss even worse is what was destroyed, right? It wasn't just like old inventory.
No, that's the really painful part. Most of it was imported raw materials, critical components, the very inputs needed for those key export industries we just talked about, garments, pharmaceuticals.
So back to that mechanism you mentioned. The country spent its foreign reserves, its dollars, to buy these materials.
Yep, dollars out.
The goods arrive.
Yeah.
And then they're destroyed before they can be turned into exports to bring new dollars back in.
Exactly. It's almost the perfect financial knockout punch. You maximize the hit on the reserves you have while simultaneously destroying your capacity to earn future reserves.
Brutal efficiency.
Yeah.
And it wasn't just commercial goods, was it? There was some pretty significant collateral damage, too.
That's right. The fire also took out specialized, very expensive equipment intended for the Mirpur nuclear power plant.
Wow. How did nuclear plant equipment end up in an airport cargo village?
It seems it was stuck there due to red tape, waiting for a no objection certificate, an NOC, before it could be moved to the actual power plant site. Bureaucratic delays left this critical, high-value equipment vulnerable.
So the fire didn't just hit commerce, it hit a major strategic national infrastructure project as well.
Precisely, broadening the impact again.
This is where the whole narrative really shifts, isn't it? From potential tragic accidents to something else. We have to talk about the security situation at Shahjalal Airport.
Absolutely, because this isn't just any location. It's a designated key point installation, a KPI. Hugely important for national security, for trade. It's often called the country's drawing room.
The nation's face to the world.
It should be one of the most secure places in the country, especially the cargo area. And here's the kicker, the major contradiction that the sources jump on.
Go on.
Just 1 week before this massive catastrophic fire, the airport achieved this huge milestone in security recognition.
Not just recognition, right? A perfect score.
A perfect 100 out of 100 for cargo security. And this wasn't from some local body. This was from the UK's Department for Transport, the DFT. Very stringent.
Okay, why is that UK certification so incredibly important? What's the background there?
You have to remember back to 2016. The UK and the EU subsequently slapped bans on direct air cargo exports from the country. Why? Because of major problems with cargo screening, security efficiencies.
Right, I remember that. It was a huge blow.
Yep.
Exporters had to reroute everything.
Exactly. Costly, complicated transshipment, often through places like India. They basically couldn't fly goods directly out from their own main airport to key markets for years.
So this 100-100 score, this DFT certification, it meant they'd finally fixed it. They were back in the game.
Completely. It was a massive victory. Years of work. It meant they could finally export directly, globally, from their own airport again. A huge boost for trade, for the economy, even for national pride.
And immediately after getting this all clear, this critical green light, the cargo village burns down, destroying potentially $1 billion worth of goods.
The timing is, well, it's incredibly suspicious, to say the least. It raises immediate, unavoidable questions. Was this time specifically to undermine that achievement, to tarnish that newly regained image of safety and capability?
And those questions just get louder when you look at how the fire itself was handled. The response seems anomalous.
That's what the sources indicate. A kind of twofold failure. First, reports suggest the airport's own internal firefighting systems maybe didn't work as they should have.
Okay, internal issues.
And second, crucially, external help. The city fire services were apparently severely delayed in getting access.
But wait, an international airport like Shahjalal, it must have its own fire crews on site, right? Fire trucks meet planes landing, that's standard procedure.
Absolutely. They have their own dedicated high-level security and firefighting capability. That's what makes it so baffling. Why did they lose control so completely in a place designed specifically to prevent and handle exactly this kind of emergency?
And the external delay. The sources mentioned eyewitness accounts about that.
They do, detailing a breakdown that just sounds bizarre. Fire service trucks apparently arrived pretty quickly at the nearest gate, Gate 8, but they were stopped.
Stopped while a massive fire is raging.
Stopped. The gate was locked. Why? Rules, apparently. That's the reason given.
Rules. You have $1 billion fire threatening a key national asset, and the fire brigade is stuck outside because of rules.
Imagine the scene. Flames visible, imported goods, the foundation of future exports, going up in smoke just yards away, and the firefighters are locked out. Sources suggest they were delayed 30, maybe 40 minutes.
30 to 40 minutes? In a fire like that, that's an eternity. That's the difference between containment and total loss.
Absolutely. Which is why the suspicion level among people working there, CNF agents, customs and forwarding agents, is sky high.
What are they saying?
Their professional assessment, according to the sources, is that if those gates had been opened immediately, a significant amount of those goods could have been saved.
So the delay wasn't just incompetence.
The feeling among many observers, given the delay and the whole pattern of events, was that it felt almost deliberate, like someone wanted to ensure maximum destruction, let it burn.
Wow. Okay, so the implication is stark. Controlled failure to maximize financial damage right after this huge security win, which forces the big question: if this looks like a systematic attack on the nation's economic stability. Cui bono? Who benefits from this chaos?
And that's exactly where the source material goes next, into the theories about who might gain from this instability. And just to be clear, we're reporting these theories as presented in the sources impartially. We're not endorsing any specific view here.
Understood. So, broadly speaking, who typically benefits from political instability?
Well, generally chaos creates opportunities for, you could say, two main camps, often with conflicting goals, but both potentially gaining from the situation.
Okay, who's the first?
The first is usually the incumbent government itself. Sometimes instability can be used as a pretext, a justification for, say, postponing elections or implementing emergency measures, maybe even setting the stage for a different kind of non-political government structure, consolidation of power, essentially, framed as restoring order.
Using the crisis they perhaps failed to prevent, or worse. Okay, and the second group?
The opposition, or forces that have been deposed, for them, widespread chaos is Exhibit A, proof that the current government is failing, that they can't manage the country.
That things were better under its argument.
Exactly. They use the fear, the economic pain, to build support for their return to power. It's a classic playbook.
And the sources draw parallels here.
They do. They point to historical examples like France, right after the revolution, around 1790 to 1796. You had internal groups, helped by outside forces, deliberately creating terror and instability. It came so bad, it nearly brought the monarchy back.
Until the revolutionary government clamped down hard with the reign of terror.
Right. The point being, manufactured domestic terror has historically been a tool used to destabilize regimes and justify major political shifts.
So applying that theory, do the sources get specific about who might be behind these particular incidents?
They do make specific, though obviously unverified, allegations. The sources we reviewed claim that these actions might have been carried out by frustrated elements within the BNP.
The main opposition party. By frustrated.
According to this analysis, there's a sense of pessimism within parts of the BNP about their chances in a straightforward election. Especially, the sources mentioned, after seeing some recent successes by other opposition groups, like Jamaat's gains in university student council elections.
So the theory is, if you can't win conventionally,
You create chaos to change the game. And crucially, the sources allege these BNP elements might have been assisted by corrupt individuals, bureaucrats, still embedded within the current Awami League government.
Okay, so that suggests a complex picture. Not just one party acting alone, but potentially internal collaboration across political lines to engineer this instability, aiming right at the economy to create political shockwaves.
That's the picture painted by these theories, yes. A rapid series of devastating economic blows, hitting reserves, hitting future exports, hitting key infrastructure, all wrapped up in this cloud of political uncertainty and suspicion about the response.
And the tragic thing is, even with losses potentially in the billions, as you said, thousands of crores, this kind of major financial hit can get forgotten so quickly when the next crisis hits, can it?
It often does. The news cycle moves on, public attention shifts, but the underlying economic damage remains.
So the sources conclude with a warning.
Yes, a fairly stark one. That if this pattern, this engineered instability and economic destruction continues without being checked, there's a real possibility of a major public reaction, a groundswell, what they term another agitation.
Another agitation.
Yeah.
Which leaves us, and leaves you listening, with a really provocative final thought to mull over.
If such a public movement did arise from this chaos, from this massive financial bleeding, considering the theories laid out about who might be pulling the strings, who would that movement ultimately target? The people allegedly creating the chaos, or the government seen as failing to stop it?
A critical question. Something to think about as you connect the dots yourself. That's our deep dive for today.